So Christmas is the time when we celebrate that God has come to be with us, that God didn't remain an idea, but that God walked among us and wept among us and came to share everything that we share. And the word Emmanuel actually means that God is with us, right? And we have seen this year, as we've never seen before, what it means to really try to be with one another. I'm thinking about my good friend Gay Lynn. We went to TCU together, and she grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma, which is where her parents live. And she now lives in Wisconsin with her husband, who's an Episcopal priest. So she, like many of us, had gone a long time, the longest separation she'd ever had from her parents in her 58 years of life. She hadn't seen them since last Thanksgiving. And so in September, she planned a road trip. I mean, like an epic road trip. And so first she quarantined because, of course, they're taking this very seriously for 2 weeks. I mean, she barely left her house in Wisconsin because she didn't want to risk at all infecting her parents who are in their 80s. And then she left her house and she drove 2 days to Creede, Colorado, which is where their family at one time had a cabin. And her brother brought her sister and her parents up to Creede. And they were there for a week. They barely left that cabin. They were outside hiking, but made all their food, stayed there very carefully. And then after that wonderful week of being connected, they went up to Idaho so that they could see more family, so that Galen's parents could be with their grandchildren. And then after Idaho, they went on to Montana so they could see Galen's son there, who was, their other grandchild. And then after that, they went to Seattle. And to be honest, that was always the real destination, because the whole trip was really planned so that Galen's mother, who is 80, could see her sister, who is 85. They hadn't seen each other in several years, and Aunt Lee has had several strokes and her health is failing. And this was one of those probably last time the sisters would see each other. She's in a nursing home, and they had prearranged this that the sisters could see each other one Wednesday afternoon and be masked. They'd have to show up, everybody have their temperature taken, go quickly into the courtyard for a 20-minute visit. My friend Galen drove 5,800 miles over 3 weeks so that her mother could spend 20 minutes with her sister, on the gamble that they wouldn't shut the nursing home down, that nobody would spike a fever at the last minute. That's what it means to say that God is with us. That's what it means to actually reach out and to try to be as close as you can to someone when being close to someone is really tricky now. And I have seen you all, and I have been stunned at the trips that you all have made. I have seen a couple drive from Leawood to Los Angeles to be with their son so he wouldn't spend Thanksgiving alone. I've seen someone else leave Connecticut and quarantine and make their way zigging, zagging across the country to Kansas to see their parents. And I've seen the pictures you've posted when you have flown from the Northwest here or from here to the East Coast with your masks and your shields. You're looking like an astronaut as carefully as you can so you can be with someone that you love, so that you can be the face of God to that person. And I've seen people go a long way with just a phone call. When this whole thing shut down, immediately we had people say, hey, I can pray for people and I can bring food by. And Elizabeth Wilson, one of our PhD students in psychology who's almost done, said, I don't have a license, I can't do counseling, but I can listen and I can refer and I can recommend people. You can put my name and contact in the newsletter if anybody wants to reach out. And I was like, are you sure? Well, I don't know how many people have reached out to Elizabeth. I know at least one or two. And I can say, honestly, I've reached out to her several times, just really to deal with feelings of anxiousness, like my mother fell, she was in the nursing home in Texas during a pandemic, really. Then my son decided that he needed to fly to the Virgin Islands to help someone recover their boat and get it back for 2 weeks. And then there's just been all the going about. And I was telling Elizabeth how anxious I was feeling and how I knew that wasn't helpful, that everybody, church people, family members need me to be non-anxious. And I was like, I know better. I guess I need to just feel the anxiety and try to work through it. And then she finally cut me off and said, have you thought about just being gracious to yourself? Just, admitting that this is a really tough time. And she told me about this woman named Kristen Neff, some psychologist who talks about self-compassion, being compassionate for yourself, and just kind of leaning in and loving yourself and loving the people around you and being the face of God to yourself. That's this night. That's Christmas Eve. That's drawing close to ourselves and risking doing that for one another. On Monday mornings, I go to Cherith Brook. That's one of the places we're receiving an offering tonight. And normally on a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday morning, you can go by there and you can see a long line of people eager to come into the cafe, to be warm, to have a meal, to hope to get on the shower list, to be welcomed by Jody and Eric, to have like genuine, caring conversations. Yeah, not now, right? I mean, since this thing shut us down, it takes twice as much money and twice as long to welcome half as many people. And so, in good fashion, in solidarity and justice fashion, they asked folks who live on the street, like, what should we do and how can we best care for one another? And so they set these tents up, these tents where there's a heater in the middle and there's chairs kind of spread out, and people are welcome to kind of sit in there and stay warm and have a meal. And there's a sign on the outside, no smoking, keep your masks on, stay 6 feet away. And I tell you what, every time I pull the curtain back to go in there and ask someone if they need a little more cup of coffee, don't you know that people have bunched their chairs up together, that they just keep moving closer to one another, because that's really who we are. And that's really how we've been made, to be with one another, to get in our car and drive across the country, to pick up the phone and reach out, to scoot our chair up a little closer. This year, we have seen really the worst of who we can be. We've seen a young man go out for a run only to be pursued and tracked and killed for the color of his skin. We have seen a country so broken that we can't manage to pass a bill to get hunger relief to people who have nothing in their cupboard. And we have seen people pull the sewing machine out, dusty from the attic, and start on the mask making. And we have seen people fill the streets, young and old, from the small towns to the big cities, to say, Black lives matter. This Christmas, we are called to see God is with us, and we are called to be with one another, to keep bunching up, to keep scooting our chairs in, to keep leaning in and listening. May the trips that we've made this year, the 5,800-mile epic trip and the phone call to a friend, may the offerings we make tonight to our friends who are close to the street and the gifts that we exchange tomorrow be a sign of our commitment this year to lean in close, to be God with us. Amen.